Hi, so June 2nd, 2026, and today I thought I would take up the words disinformation versus misinformation because I think these are very misunderstood words, especially when you consider that those entities or groups who are very quick to attack, the average citizen of disinformation are in fact the ones that are guilty of disinformation, whereas the average citizen isn't. And again, this is another example, great example of words taken by propagandists and conveniently kind of repackaged, twisted, and relying on the ignorance of people who are listening to those words. So I thought we'll get started. So to start off with, all those beautiful dictionaries I have behind me, most of them are pre-1950. So you will not find disinformation in those dictionaries because the word disinformation only entered the English language post 1950s. And I'm going to show you some examples. But misinformation, this is nice and easy. This is a Lloyd's Encyclopedic Dictionary, 1895. I'm not going to go back even earlier because misinformation is simply mis and information. So mis means wrong or badly, right? To misunderstand, to understand wrongly or badly, to misuse equipment, to use equipment wrongly. Mis is a prefix which is used quite readily throughout the English language. So here we have misinformation, wrong or incorrect information, an erroneous statement of facts. So you tell somebody, oh yeah, the shop opens at 10, person goes to the shop, it's not open, it's closed on Tuesdays. Oh, okay, I've been misinformed, right? Perhaps the intention was bad, or perhaps there's no bad intention, it's just wrong information and erroneous, right? So that's straightforward, and you'll find that doesn't really change across the dictionaries, it's just misinformation in the same way we have misunderstanding. But now we go on to disinformation. So this is a 1950s, what would be equivalent to the shorter Oxford English Dictionary, but it's called like this one. You can see it's a bit damaged, the Britannia one. The word's not in there. So if I jump onto the 70s Oxford Shorter Dictionary. Now, Oxford Shorter Dictionary is the dictionary just below the full 26 odd volumes of the Oxford English Dictionary. So here it's a 1970s volume. Disinformation is not in there, so I can't show you that. But what I will show you is my more recent dictionaries, because some of them have it, some of them haven't got it. So here's the Oxford. This is 2005 edition, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Or is it? Oh, beg your pardon. Third edition, 2010, right? And then I go to disinformation. What do we have here? False information which is intended to mislead, especially propaganda issued by a government organization to a rival power or the media. And its origin is from the 1950s, formed on the pattern of Russian Disinformation. Now, I have this data, but I cannot find it in my dictionary, and I could be wrong, but apparently, but if you're Russian or if you know of it, you can confirm it. I try to avoid the internet for that because I try to look through that through my books for that. But KGB used to have a department called the Department of Disinformation, where they would go and plant false information about somebody, plant files in their location or in certain areas, and then you can go and raid that area and then find those files, and then you can take the person away, if you know what I mean. So that's information I had from a long time ago. Unfortunately, I can't recall where I saw that. So anyway, it's based on the pattern of Russian Disinformation. Right, so this is the Oxford one. Now, I'm going to go on this one. This is a massive, it's about just before 2000. It's very big. It's the unabridged Universal Webster's Dictionary. It's massive. And let's see what it says. So again, it's a pre-2000. Disinformation. Here we have. Oh, I've lost it already. Here we go. Now this is a bit more complete. It says, false information as about a country's military strength or plans publicly announced or planted in the news, media, especially of other countries. Now it gives a slightly different date of when it came into being in the English language. It says 1965 to 70s, which is probably why we're struggling to find any definition right after 1950. Can't find dictionary definitions in there. I've got one 1955 dictionary and nothing in there either. And the two Oxfords I showed you, the early ones, nothing in it. So if it did come into the language about 1965-70, they would have taken a few more years to get into the dictionary. So here you go. It's a translation of the Russian Disinformation, apparently. Right, now let's do another dictionary. And as usual, I will put a photo of those definitions so you can actually see it for yourself, so you know what I'm reading. All right, so this one is the American Heritage Dictionary. It's a really nice dictionary, actually, this. And here we have disinformation. A bit more information. All right. Deliberately misleading information announced publicly or leaked by a government or especially by an intelligence agency in order to influence public opinion or the government in another nation. So this is the most complete definition, right? I'm going to read it again because I'm not going to say anything, but I think you can scan everyday media. You can scan things that have happened in the last few years. And I think you can come to your own conclusions on this, right? Deliberately misleading information announced publicly or leaked by a government or especially by an intelligence agency in order to influence public opinion or the government in another nation. Okay? And again, same derivation. Russian, they think it's possibly translation of Russian, Disinformation. Okay. And the last one, it's a new one that I've acquired. I got Chambers. Somebody told me that I didn't have a Chambers and I was not good. So I got a Chambers. So, all right. In the Chambers, it's a slightly smaller definition and it just says deliberate leakage of misleading information. Deliberate. So here we can see from all these dictionaries, these are modern dictionaries around between 2010, actually the Chambers 2011, so 2011 down to about 1980, 1985. So we have a very short period of time again, 30 odd years, maybe a bit more than that, let's say 75, okay, 50 years. But we have a real common denominator here. We're looking at leaked information, deliberate information put out to the public or the media by governments or their information agency or intelligence agency, right? So when you have a government body, whatever you want to call it, putting notices up on YouTube or TikTok and that sort of thing, big signs of, this is disinformation or be careful of disinformation. Well, it doesn't really make sense because per definition, disinformation is an activity of governments and intelligence agency with obviously the intention of changing public opinion, or obviously when you put false information, you plant false information in another country, in their media, you can see all the upsets and wars and conflicts that would stir. So my suggestion is be mindful of those definitions. Misinformation is misinformation, and that can happen for sure. Wrong information, intentional or not intentional. Disinformation is a very, very different business. So you should really, keep that critical thinking cap on and do your own looking and your own observing. And again, I cannot stress enough the importance of getting hold of dictionaries, not AI, not online dictionaries. Just have hard copies, because anybody can come along and change definitions, remove definitions, anything like that online. So you want to have hard copies of books.